Good evening at 6 o'clock. We'll open this meeting of the Mount Vernon City Council. We do have a quorum present. Appreciate everybody attending. Thanks for everybody in the public that's here this evening as well. Craig is going to lead us in our invocation.
Please bow with me. Father God, we just thank you for your grace, your mercy, and your kindness towards us. And Father, I just pray that you would grant the council wisdom tonight as we seek to do your will as far as the city is concerned. We ask that you would bless everyone that's here, bless this community, keep it safe, and help us to grow in accordance with your wishes. I ask that you bless this time now in your Son's holy name. Amen.
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 Please join me for our pledges. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible. All right, if the council's spent time on the agenda, we need approval of the consent agenda. Doesn't approve. Yeah. I see this. Yes. All right, so we'll move right on to our items of community interest. Say go Tigers, undefeated here. Cool game on the new field. Does anybody have anything they'd like to share from the community or council? If not, we'll move right along. I don't have anybody signed up for citizen participation, so we'll go right into our public hearing at 6:02. I'll open the public hearing. The purpose of this hearing is to hear evidence for or against the 2023 proposed tax rate of 0.54514 and the 2023-2024 proposed budget. If we don't have anybody here to speak for the hearing, well, let's call it 6:03, and I'll close the public hearing, and we'll go right into our items to be considered. So, item 1, consider and act upon approval of accepting Councilwoman Robertson's resignation. Again, last meeting we spoke there. Sherilyn Robertson has been an awesome council person for us, and she's really saddened to be moving away from Mount Vernon, closer to family in Dallas. She is, even though she's not here, I'm just going to reiterate, she's one of the most prepared people I've ever served on a council or board with. She cared, she took time, she never had a personal agenda. She had just whatever was best for this community, that's where her heart was. And again, she was a hard worker. She took it serious, and I think that's just to be admired. It wasn't about holding a seat. It was about helping the community and every meeting being prepared and trying to make the best decision she could. So anyway, unfortunately, you have to do these things publicly to accept Sherilyn's resignation and wishing her the best, I guess, to her new move to Dallas. So we need a motion for that.
I'll make a motion to accept.
I'll second. Mary, and a second from Rebecca. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. So with that, we have a vacancy on the council, and we've had. I'll introduce him, and I'll let Marty come up and share a little bit about himself. But I've known Marty Carrascosa all his childhood life. Him and my younger brother were classmates, so we're all getting older these days. Marty's about to be 50, right? But 49. Yeah, and Holden for now, right? But Marty's a sharp guy and well spoken, and he loves Mount Vernon. He decided to move back. How many years has it been now?
About 4 years.
About 4 years, yeah. So anyway, he's got a beautiful family, and bought some of the lots in town beside his mom. Built a beautiful house. It's like the perfect story about somebody that gets out, goes off to school, ends up with a career somewhere, but wants to get home and raise their kids in Mount Vernon, and gave up an executive leadership role at his dad's company in Houston, and the rest is history. He's back here in Mount Vernon, and I'd asked him when he got here, I said, when the time's right, you get your house built and the kids settled, would you want to consider serving on one of the councils or boards? And of course he wanted to, but the timing wasn't right. But I spoke with him here recently, and he's like, I'm excited and looking forward to getting more involved. So I'm recommending Marty for that spot. But I'd like you to come on up if you would, Marty. Just come and introduce yourself. And I think a lot of us know you, but there's several that don't. So pretty good ball player in his day too. I know he's got his son back there in the back, running back on the 7th grade Hey, there he is. Rylan.
7th grade running back right there.
Following Dad's footsteps there.
I think he's going to be a better athlete than I was.
We'll see.
I know most everybody here, but for those who don't know me, my name is Marty Carrascosa. I'm born in Mount Pleasant, Texas. Raised right here in Mount Vernon my whole life. Right there on Honeycutt Street, actually, where I built the house. I graduated high school here. And just like Brad said, I left and I just couldn't wait to get out of here, like most kids. You know, I was just itching to get out of here. So I did, and I went to Stephen F. Austin, and I clawed my way to a business degree. You know, not sure how that happened, but I did it 4.5 years. Then I spent about 25 years out in the business field. Ultimately, I was the vice president of a company down in Houston. And like Brad said, about 10 years ago, my values just kind of shifted, you know, and I wanted to get back to Mount Vernon. And we started having kids. We now have 4 kids, and I've been with my wife since 2006. So happily married, happy father, but something was missing, you know. So we decided to make a plan to move back here. I started buying a couple of lots, and then I was like, you know, why don't we build a house right next to my mom? That would be really cool. That lot is actually where we played baseball, kickball, football with Jeff Briscoe and, you know, Shane Code, the whole crew. So it means a lot to me that we built a house right there on that lot. And where I lay my head every night is home plate. It's the original Sandlot. So I don't know if you guys ever seen that movie.
Oh, yeah.
That's Honeycutt Street. So it really means a lot to me to be nominated for this seat, to come back and serve this community and give back to the community that basically built me. So, you know, I'm back. I'm also a small business owner. I employ 6 people. Since I've been back, I bought, built, and sold 2 businesses. I'm on my 3rd now, and I'm running 60% year over year. So I'm going to hold on to that for about another 2 or 3 years, and then not sure what I'm going to do after that. But like I said, my whole mindset started changing. So to me, this is giving back, and it's fulfilling a personal, you know, void that was in me. Everything else is in place, and so here I am. So I would be honored to serve.
Thank you, Marty.
You got it.
So we would need a motion to approve Marty coming in.
Make a motion.
Got that motion from Harold Kaysen,
I'll second.
second from Mary. All in favor?
Aye.
Don't sit down yet. Come on back up here. Motion carries.
Yeah, he can't do anything tonight. He has to do something.
Can we do that tonight? Oh, we can do that next meeting. Huh?
I'm not prepared,
Oh, okay.
because I didn't know if you were
Okay.
doing it or not.
Okay. Well, all right. So we'll do it next meeting here in 2 weeks.
It's on September 11th. No,
September-
September 11th.
11.
It is 11th. Yeah. Yeah. Well, we'll look forward to putting you to work here in a couple of weeks. All right. All right. Cool. Thank you, Marty.
I think it's next year. Yeah. Then I'll have to run.
All right, item 2, consider an act we did that. Item 3, consider an act upon imposing a temporary hold on issuing permits on all new development that would expire upon approval of the final engineering and design standards.
Yes, Mayor, Council, as you are aware, KSA Engineering has been working with the city over the last few months on preparing some engineering and design standards for any kind of development that comes in that addresses everything from installation of water and sewer to streets to types of concrete to lighting, the whole 9 yards. It's something I think that the city has needed for specifically for new developments for quite some time. They're in a draft format right now. I met with Blake and Lanny 3 weeks ago. We made some minor alterations to modifications to it. Hopefully we can have a final draft prepared by the 11th. But we're getting a great deal of interest in development right now, and I would prefer to wait until those are in place before we give the green light to any developers.
Yeah.
Because we don't really have any design standards. And so I'm asking the council to consider a temporary hold on issuing any kind of new building permits until such time as that we have that. I don't anticipate this being more than a couple of weeks. Even if they don't have a final draft, we could approve the draft that we have, with the understanding that those could be modified, amended at any time. So we just need to get something in place. You want to say anything, Lanny?
A lot of good work's been done in the background, and we're right at the ninth hour getting those zoning ordinances updated. So there's some big projects trying to kick off. So we'll make
Right.
sure we kind of get off on to our plan. So
And these will go hand in hand with modification of the zoning ordinances. Actually, I've asked MHS to give us a proposal on modifying those too. So we're going to make some progress here.
all right. So we need a motion for a temporary hold here.
I'll do a motion for temporary hold.
Motion from Rebecca,
I'll second.
second from Mary. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, item 4, consider an act upon approval of repealing the juvenile curfew ordinance 13-91 through 13-95 of the city ordinances effective September 1, 2023. And I'm not familiar with this.
You're going to have to help me on this
Yeah,
one.
you'd have to,
State law is saying that you cannot have a local curfew ordinance.
okay. So this is just accepting that, yeah. All right, so we need a motion to approve repealing the juvenile curfew ordinance.
Yeah, I'll make a
Motion from Harold,
I'll second.
second from Mary, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, so discussion items, we'll get to our tax rate, which I guess we're,
Yes, sir.
Over there, sir.
We talked about this at the last council meeting. The recommended adopted tax rate, total tax rate for this upcoming year is 0.54514 per $100 valuation. Now, this is approximately 1/10 of 1 cent less than the rate was the previous year. And the M&O rate is right at 0.4457 with a debt rate of basically 0.09944, basically a penny per 100 valuation. Compare this with the no new revenue rate, which is the rate that is calculated that would generate the same, proposed to generate the same amount of revenue as we did this last year, was 0.48318. The voter approved rate, 0.40674. That's for M&O, and then the voter approved rate for both M&O and for debt is 0.54514. And it's our recommendation that we go with that rate.
And for Lily's sake, the adopted M&O of 0.4457, we're using 3.03896 unused increments
Thank
from
you.
our last year to make the 44.57.
Is it clear?
yeah.
Clear as what Keith looks at every day?
There's no action here, right?
No action. No action.
No action.
So we want to
We
move,
just have to propose it tonight so that I can send it back for tomorrow so that we can put the ad in the paper and adopt it in September.
so consider it proposed.
And the next thing is the proposed budget. You assume that all of y'all have had an opportunity to review the proposed budget that was published as a part of the agenda.
We did not increase the tax because we didn't know if we were going to approve this tax rate.
So, but you can
So it's
anticipate,
gonna change a little bit between now and
right.
September.
And you can see where we are on our current collections of tax right now, so we're going to be well ahead. We feel very comfortable with what will be proposed for next year. In preparation of the budget, we included basically everything that the departments, almost everything that the departments asked for. We included some salary adjustments, cost of living. There were some adjustments made for our health care, and in addition to the equipment, some of the materials and supplies that were needed by the departments, they were all included in there. We're a little bit over on our expenses versus our revenues, but as I stated this last, if you got the email this last Friday, we anticipate that over the next 2 weeks, we'll be able to get all that worked out. Departments, we're working with each of the departments to go ahead and purchase what they had requested for 23-24 out of 22 excess funds that they have in their budget. We're also still working on the tax revenue and the sales tax revenue.
So some of the, we have not received all of our tax revenue just from the switchover of Melissa and Sue Ann. So we still have about 4 months of payments we haven't received.
So we'll be closing that gap with that. In addition to that, there's a few items there that we'll address with the EDC. They're going to help us on the downtown Wi-Fi, possibly help us on the farmers market pavilions when we get a ballpark figure of what those might cost. In addition to that, but bottom line is that we're probably we are definitely going to need to come and make a decision with regard to our fund balance and using some of our fund balance. This has been discussed, I think, ever since we had the meeting on the audit, February or March. And we have about a $2.7 million undedicated fund balance that we could use to address some of these capital expenditures. Now, each of y'all have been given a list of the capital expenditures. Had it for a few weeks to look at, and I think I've talked about it in a couple of emails. But everything on those capital expenditures, there's no fluff on any of those. Those are all really necessary items. The big ticket items are obviously going to be the generators for the raw water intake pumps and the generator for the wastewater pump, and both of the electrical control panels that are going to be needed there. And the SCADA systems are also needed. We saw the perfect storm with power outage, and we saw what could happen, and we're one power outage away from that happening again and being in a real bad way. So it would be our recommendation that over the course of the next 2 weeks that you let us identify exactly how much of that fund balance we need to apply to it, but be anticipating that it would be our request that we use that fund balance to buy those major capital items. We're going to try to get as much as we can out of this year. We're going to try to, tweak the revenues best we can. We feel very comfortable with what we are projecting on the revenue. I'm projecting a big banner year next year for sales tax, and also increase in property tax over the next 2 years because we have some new developments coming in. But we are going to have to use some of that fund balance to address some of the capital needs that we have. If we don't do it now, then it's going to cost us a whole lot more later. Have I said enough?
That's perfect, actually.
Okay.
Well, we've spent how many weeks now working for the budget? I think this is the work's been really good. It's been very detailed and very public. I like that. So everybody's attended our meetings in the past. Has heard good discussion and understands where we're at. Trying to avoid borrowing money that we don't have to, and we're keeping funds in an account far beyond what we really need to run this city. So bring those in a bit and versus putting more pressure on the homeowners here.
We're really in good shape.
Yeah.
And we're real blessed that we are. So.
Yeah, we have a low debt. We're really very good credit. Don't have much money we borrow, so really it doesn't make sense to keep as much money as we've had sitting aside without taking care of some of our major issues. So good work with you and the team, Craig.
Thanks. Kathy's been great with us, and all the department heads have been great on this too, and I really appreciate everybody's help. I have asked Lanny to address one item that actually is a budget-related item that wasn't included in this, because it's a discussion that we just had over the last week. And you can actually see that item right out that window there. Come up and talk to us about the wall.
Mm.
Yes. So, what we've been talking about is the wall that you can see right across the way around the pavilion. If you go over to that corner that you can see from here, you can stick your hand in the wall and see what the composition of the wall is. And I wasn't around when it was constructed, of course, and it's got brick and it's got concrete and dirt and whatever else in there, so it's kind of a hodgepodge of anything. Not really a lot of rebar or anything to tie it together. It's not a block wall. It just kind of looks like it was thrown together with whatever they could find at the time. So what's happening is over time it's falling apart, and I think the city's done a great job of patching it, putting coat of paint on it, whether it's on something solid or some dirt. They've every year or so put a coat of paint on it, and so it is where it is. We have looked at, back when we were doing one of the projects on the street, we had a contractor estimate what it would cost to basically just do the corner up here. So we were, I don't remember, 40 feet back on either side, I think, something like that. And because there's nothing to hold the wall up once you take it down, it was like $20,000 to demo it, $20,000 to put it back up. We thought that was high at the time, and we didn't have the money in the grant for that, so we didn't do anything at the time. But it is getting time to do something. So what I told Craig is we can look at talking to some other contractors, give me a firm price. We can estimate something, however you guys want to approach it. I had asked today what our ceiling is now on budgets for where we can go up for quotes instead of bids, so we can just put sketches together and get quotes instead of developing a full set of plans and going through the advertising and the bidding and everything. So hoping this will stay within that parameter. Then it goes back to how much of the wall do we want to do? Do we want to make it all uniform all the way around and repair it now? I know there's other places than just that 40 feet on either side of this corner. There's other areas. Of course, we'd match it as best we could, but that would be a decision that needs to be made over time. So,
I don't know if y'all have taken a close look at it.
Oh, yeah.
But you can stand at that corner and you can look that way or that way, and you can see it actually leaning.
yeah. So,
Yeah, it could be a parking spaces pretty easily.
Yeah, it could.
yes, 2 years ago that gap was like this. And now
Yeah,
it's a pretty good gap.
and I'm just thinking a couple of really wet winters
Yeah.
behind us.
And I think that's part of what happened. Is this winter
Yeah.
was kind of wet, or the spring was wet, and so now you're drying back up. So it pushed it out, and now it's shrinking up behind it. Anyway,
It's a weekend project, sounds like. We
maybe
get
so.
enough of us.
We get some community services workers out there with some Sackcrete, it'll be good.
We are gonna have to address it, obviously. It is, if it ends up in parking spaces one after a storm, I mean, then you really have a mess. Shutting down parking to half the side of the square or something, it could be a much bigger problem.
I have only one question. Are you gonna be able to salvage the railing?
So that was,
The railing.
so the question was, can we salvage the railing? At the time, we looked at it, and we're trying to salvage the railing. I don't know when that railing was put in, but we assumed there was historical significance. Maybe there isn't. But some of that railing is rotted off that we would have to patch. Some of it's gonna be okay, but yeah, that would be the idea, is to salvage the railing around it.
Could we make that part of the sidewalk grant next go around? Could that,
The part of the sidewalk grant is what we used, we were gonna try to fix it.
Right.
But
I know we had to do the steps and stuff,
That's
but,
what they tie your animals up to.
the
Yeah.
railing is what she's talking about.
yeah.
We tried to fix it with what money was left in the sidewalk grant.
Right, we did.
We just
Right.
didn't have that.
Just
So
working
do
on
you think the sidewalk grant could be used for that? Specific only?
So we would have to go out for another grant. It would be another Main Street grant, so it would have to go through whatever time period that involved. We can certainly look into that. Yes, I believe so. So you, yeah, you skipped a year, so yeah, you'd be ready to do it in 24. So that's another option. You can wait another, what the heck, we've waited 20
Yeah.
years.
I think
Listen what's next.
I think it's wise to go ahead and get some quotes so we kind of have an idea.
I do too.
You know, and I think that, and I've contacted TML about that, shortly after we emailed or text, and I hadn't heard back from them, but I think that the legislature did increase the minimum from 50,000 to at least 100,000 for competitive bidding. You know, I
So
believe
what's
that is
100,
correct.
you think?
I think I had heard that that's what the talk was that I'd heard. I should hear something back from them tomorrow. I contacted one of their attorneys.
Okay. So one of the other projects for the Main Street, of course, was the First National Bank along that road there. There's that brick or that retaining wall there, and that sidewalk is starting to lean as well.
In front of like the newspaper.
Right. Yeah, and it's starting to. I think it's even had some bricks fall
That was
out.
what we were gonna try to do next.
So that was kind of the next phase that we were looking at and knock the wall, but you know we could go as far as we can with whatever. So.
Okay. Thanks for that, Lanny.
Anything else this evening? Pretty much covers it. All right.
I think that covers it.
Well, if the council doesn't have anything else, we may have a short night tonight, so call for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.
Motion second.
I'll
All in
second.
favor. All right. Meeting adjourned. Thank y'all.